Hello friends, welcome to 2D Games with Unity tutorial series. In this tutorial, we are going to discuss what is the difference between a 2D project mode and a 3D project mode. So let's get started. First, I am going to delete the previous project that I have. Shift delete. I double click on Unity icon. I am going to create a new project. The project name I am going to give is Unity 2D Demo, and I am going to save the project at desktop. You can see here, instead of 3D, I am going to click on 2D text. Then I click on create project. We know that Unity is going to create a 2D demo project on the desktop. So we have here Unity 2D demo project, and then the Unity IDE will get open, and we got the IDE. Let me close this project by clicking on this close button. Then I open the Unity once again. This time I am going to create a 3D project. So how do we create a 3D project? I click on new project button. Then I give the project name Unity 3D Demo. I save the project at desktop. To create a 3D project, instead of clicking on 2D text, I am going to click on 3D text. Then I click on create project. And we know that Unity is going to create Unity 3D Demo project at the desktop, and the Unity IDE will get open, and we have the Unity IDE open. Let me close the Unity. We are going to discuss the difference between 2D project and 3D project here. Let me double click on Unity icon. I am going to open the Unity 2D demo project. First difference that you can see is, if I click on edit menu, go to project settings, click on the editor. Here you can see default behavior mode. The mode is set to 2D. You are telling to the Unity you should behave in a 2D mode. That is the first difference you can see here. We discuss about what happens when a project is in a 2D mode. So here our project or our Unity is going to behave in a 2D mode. Let me close this. I double click on Unity icon. I open the Unity 3D demo this time. Here we see the editor behavior mode. I click on the edit menu, go to project settings, click on the editor. Here you can see the default behavior mode is set to 3D. So in 2D project mode, the mode is set to 2D, whereas in the 3D project mode, the mode is set to 3D. If you want, you can switch from one behavior mode to another behavior mode by clicking on this drop down menu. So if I want, I can change the mode to 2D at any time. So that is the first difference. Let me close this. Now we are going to understand what happens if the project is set to 2D mode, if the project is set to 3D mode. Let's see some differences. Let me double click on Unity icon. Let me click on Unity 2D demo project. Here we are going to discuss the difference between a 2D project mode camera and a 3D project mode camera. I click on this main camera and observe its position. Its position is x0, y0, z negative 10. So camera is placed at 0, 0, negative 10 in the 2D project mode. Let me close this. Let me double click on Unity icon again. I open the Unity 3D demo project this time, and let's see where the main camera is positioned. Let me click on the main camera. Here you can see that its position is set to 0, 1, minus 10. So in 3D mode, camera is placed at 0, y is 1, you can see that. That means camera is little bit up. It is placed little bit up because you can be able to see the surface little bit more clearly. That is the reason the camera is little bit up in this place. So we have x0, y1 and z is negative 10. That is the another difference. Let me close this. Let me double click on Unity icon and we discuss the third difference. Let me click on Unity 2D demo project. In the 2D project mode, let's see the main camera projection mode. In the 2D mode, the camera is set to orthographic projection or orthographic view. There will be two different projections. One is perspective projection, another one is orthographic projection. In 2D project mode, the camera is set to orthographic projection mode. If you don't know what is the difference between orthographic projection mode and the perspective projection mode, I will discuss soon. So remember that in 2D mode, camera's projection mode is set to orthographic. Let me close this. I open the Unity icon. I open the Unity 3D demo project. Let's see the camera's projection mode. I click on the main camera. You can see here the projection mode is set to perspective projection mode. Instead of orthographic, in the 3D mode, you will be having the camera projection mode set to perspective, or you can say perspective view. Let me close this. Let me double click on Unity icon. Let me open the Unity 2D demo project. Let me click on the main camera. As we know that in the 2D mode, the projection mode is set to orthographic. Let's see how the camera looks if I change the scene mode from 2D to 3D. Let me click on this. You can see the camera is going to look something like this. I hold the Alt key and rotate the view and I zoom out. So you can see that the camera is going to look something like this in the 2D mode. Remember, this is how it looks in 2D mode. Let me close this and show you how the camera looks in 3D mode. I double click on Unity icon, open the Unity 3D demo project. Let me go to scene view and click on the main camera and I rotate it and I zoom out. This is how the camera looks, guys. This is how the camera looks in the perspective mode or in the 3D project mode. This is how the camera looks. Now what is the difference between orthographic mode or orthographic view and the perspective view? To explain that, I need to bring some assets into the project. So let me close this Unity icon. Let me double click on Unity icon. Let me click on Unity 2D demo project. I click on the main camera, switch to 3D mode. I rotate it. I go to assets folder, create one new folder, and that is going to hold the sprites, S-P-R-I-T-E-S, sprites, and I bring one sprite into it. I click on run, then I open the MS Paint. Let me click and select the red color paint and fill this. Here we have 100 by 100 image. You can see the size 100 by 100. I'm going to save this image, save as JPEG. I save it at desktop and the name I'm going to give is player. And I save it at the desktop, so I click on save button. You can see that player image got saved at the desktop. How do we bring that? I'm going to drag and drop it to sprites folder. You can see that I got the player. The first difference you should see when I bring an image into a 2D project mode, we know that the image texture type will be set to Sprite 2D and UI, you can see that. Let me save this. So I create one scenes folder. I click on the assets folder, right click, create a folder called as scenes, and I save the current scene. File, save scene as. I open the scenes folder and here I am going to give Unity 2D demo scene, S-C-E-N-E. I save it and you should see the scene saved here, and we have the sprite also available, player sprite. Let's see the texture type for any image that I bring in a 3D project mode. Let me close this. I open the 3D demo project. So here what I am going to do, I am going to create one folder, right click, create a folder. Here I am going to create a folder with the name textures. There we created sprites. Here I have given the folder name as textures and I bring the image in this textures folder. So I just drag and drop it to the textures folder. So we have here the image. If I click on the player image, you can see the texture type is set to texture. In 2D project mode, the texture type is set to Sprite 2D UI, whereas in the 3D project mode, the image texture type is set to texture. We understand what is the difference between sprite and a texture soon. Now I am going to go to assets folder. I create a new folder with the name scene and I save the current scene in the scenes folder. So I go to file, save scene as. I open the scenes folder. I save the scene as Unity 3D demo scene, S-C-E-N-E. Let me save that. You can see that the scene got saved. Now let me close this. I double click on Unity icon, open the Unity 2D demo project. Now we discuss what is the difference between sprite and a texture. So in the 2D mode, we know that image texture type is set to Sprite 2D. So if I drag and drop this image, let me drag and drop this in the hierarchy. We know that for this image, a game object is created with the same name as the image name. You can see that the game object name is player, and that game object is going to have a component called as sprite renderer, and that sprite renderer is going to take your image, that is the player image, and it renders that image on the scene. And also it is going to have a default material with the name sprite default. We discuss what materials and all little bit later. Now what happens when you bring this player image means there will be a game object created, and you can think like the material is a glue between a game object and a image. So material is going to attach your sprite to the game object. You can think like that. So now you have the game object created, and I focus it. So I click on the player, I move the mouse cursor into the scene and press the F key to focus the player. This is how the player looks. You can see that. Now I go to 3D project mode and explain. Let me close this and save this scene. Save. Yes, replace it. Now I open the 3D demo project. I double click on Unity icon. I open the Unity 3D demo project. Now here I am going to drag and drop this texture, that is a player image, into the hierarchy. If I try to drag and drop, you can see that Unity won't allow the texture to be directly added to the scene. If I drag and drop, I don't get any image or any game object created, neither in the hierarchy nor in the scene. The reason is textures cannot be brought directly into the scene or into the hierarchy. To create a game object and apply a texture to that game object, here we are going to follow some steps. So first of all, I need to create one game object. What I do, I go to game object. I am going to create a 3D game object, and the game object is going to be a quad. If I click on the quad, you can see that the quad game object is created with the name quad. You can see the quad game object. You can see that it has more components, but here you have a component called as mesh renderer. That is the one which is rendering your 3D game object. Now here we have default material. So as I told, the material is the glue between your game object and the texture. So here, if I have to apply this texture to this quad, first of all I need to create a material, then I apply the texture to the material, then that material will be applied to this quad game object. Or we have a shortcut way. All I need is I am going to drag this player image and apply that to the quad. Check out what happens here in this place. If I drag and drop, what Unity will do is it is going to create a materials folder for us. So in the materials folder, it has created one material with the name player, and that player material is applied to the quad. If you see here we have the material with the name as player, and you can see that it has applied, and you can see the quad is now displayed as a red color box, right? Can you see that? So here we have the difference. I hope you guys have understood what is the difference between a sprite and a texture. Sprite, if you drag and drop, automatically the system will create a game object, it will create a material, and it will apply that sprite to a material, and that material will be applied to a game object. The game object will get created. Whereas with respect to a texture, you cannot directly drag a texture. You cannot create an object by using a texture directly. First you need to create an object, then you create a material, then you apply a texture to the material, then you apply that material to the game object, then the game object will be get created completely. That is the difference between a sprite and a texture. Now we are going to discuss what is the difference between a perspective projection mode and orthographic projection mode. So let me save this scene, file, save scene. Open the scenes folder. I click on this Unity 3D demo scene. I save this. I replace. Yes. I close the Unity. Now I open the 2D demo project. Let me double click on Unity icon. Click on the Unity 2D demo project. Now we know what is the difference between a sprite and a texture. Now we discuss what is the difference between orthographic projection and the perspective projection. So we have the main camera here. Let me focus it. So here we have the main camera. I switch to 3D mode. I rotate this and I zoom in. I hold the Q key and move it little bit this side so that I can see everything properly. I rotate it a little bit right. Let's take player and drag and drop. We know that the player is created here at 0, 0, 0, and if I see through the main camera, that is how it looks. And you can see in the game view, the game object is over here, that is the player is over here at the center. Let me go back to the scene. This time what I do, I duplicate the player. If I drag and drop, I will get one more game object with the same name as the player. I can duplicate also. Instead of dragging and dropping, I can duplicate also. I need to click on the game object, then press Ctrl D. If I press the Ctrl D, you can see that there is a duplicate created with the name player win. So this is a duplicate game object of this player. So player 1 is available and it is also created at position 0, 0, 0. So what I do means I am going to move the player a little bit right. So I click on the translation tool to select the player 1 game object and I move it towards right. And now if you see the preview, you have two game objects, one beside another, you can see here. And if you switch to game view, you can see that we have two game objects. One is a player, another one is a player 1. Let me switch back to the screen. Now what I do means I am going to select the player 1 and I move it in a z direction back, little bit far. They both are of same size, but I have moved the player 1 little bit far in the z axis, and in the z axis I am going to place it at maybe 10 units away, and the position I am going to set, x position I am going to set to 5. And now I see in the camera preview. If I click on this camera preview, you can see that we have both the game objects available. Let me switch to game view. If you observe here, both are, even though this game object is very far away from us, it is displayed of the same size. There is no difference. Can you see any difference between them? Both are displayed in the same size. Both are looking like they are in the same position. Only x position is different. It is looking like that. So, in the orthographic projection, the game objects are drawn with the same size. Even though they are in a far away, or even though they are different in distance, in the orthographic projection mode, they are flattened. Whereas in the 3D projection mode, or if I say in the perspective projection mode, it will be little bit different. Let's see that. First of all, I go to File, Save Scene. I open the scenes folder, I click on Unity 2D demo scene and I save it. I say yes, I want to replace it. I close this and let's see what happens in the perspective projection mode. I open the Unity icon. I open the Unity 3D demo project. Now this time I am going to bring the game object over here. So what I need to do, I am going to create a game object, a quad game object. So we have the quad. Already we have material created. All I am going to do is I am going to apply this material to quad. So I am going to drag and drop it. So we have the quad or a game object created. Let me see how it looks in the scene view. So here it looks something like this in the camera preview. Let me click on the game view and show you how it looks. So this is how it looks. Now what I do, I am going to duplicate this quad. So I press Ctrl D. You can see we have quad 1 created and I click on this quad 1. In the scene view, we have already the translation gizmo available on the quad 1. I am going to drag it towards right. That means I set the position.x to 5 and position.z to 10. Now you can see that this quad is moved away. Let's see how it looks now in the perspective camera. If I click on the camera preview, there is a difference. Let me switch to game view. You can see that the quad 1 and quad both are of same size, but in the perspective projection mode, if you move the game object far away, it will be displayed in the smaller size. That is the real world view, right? So this perspective camera is going to behave like a real world camera. So here you can see that a far away object is displayed in the smaller size, the nearer object is displayed in a larger size. So you can observe the difference very clearly. If I select this quad and move it more nearer, the game object becomes larger and larger in size. It is displayed in larger and larger size. And if I move away, it will be displayed in the smaller size. That is the difference between the perspective camera and orthographic camera. In orthographic camera, whether the game object is away or nearer, it will be flattened and displayed in the same size. Whereas in the perspective camera mode, the object will behave in different ways. What happens means if the object is nearer to the camera, object is displayed in the larger size. If the object is away from the camera, then the object is displayed in the smaller in size. So that is the difference between the perspective camera and perspective view and orthographic view. So let me go to File, Save Scene. I open the Scenes folder. I click on Unity 3D Demo Scene and I click on Save and I say yes, I want to replace. So I save the scene. Let me close this Unity. Let me double click on Unity icon. Let's see the next difference between the 2D project mode and the 3D project mode. If I click on the Unity 2D demo project, and you can observe that whenever I open the Unity 2D demo project, the camera is set to 2D mode. So also the scene, you can see the scene is set to 2D mode and the camera is set or locked to X and Y axis. In the 2D project mode, camera is locked to X and Y axis and the scene is set to 2D mode. If you want to switch to 3D mode, you can click on this and switch to 3D mode. Now the camera is set up to X and Z plane, whereas here the camera is set to X and Y plane. So that is the one difference. Let me close this and show you how the scene is set up in the 3D project mode. If I open the 3D project, I am going to click on Unity 3D demo project. Here you can see that the scene is set up to 3D project mode, not to 2D project mode. If I click on the 2D project mode, it is set up to, the scene is set up to 2D project mode. That means the camera is set up now to X and Y plane, whereas in the 3D mode, the camera is set up to X and Z plane. So in the 3D project mode, the scene is set up to X and Z planes. So you can see here X plane is towards us and Z plane is in this direction. That is the another difference you can find. Let me close this and show you one more difference. I double click on Unity icon. I open the Unity 2D demo project. Here you can see that we don't find any direction light. We have only main camera. There is no direction light. You can think like light is already enabled in the 2D project mode. And we don't need any light here to see the game objects. Automatically game objects will be visible. You can think like there is already light is enabled in the 2D project mode. Let me close this. I double click on Unity icon. I open the Unity 3D demo project and you can see that here we have a direction light. Here we have a direction light. Direction light is not available in the 2D project mode. In the 3D project mode, you can think like there is no light enabled already. To see the game objects which are available in the scene, you need to have at least one light in the scene. So we have here direction light, whereas direction light is not available in the 2D project mode. Let me close this and we see another difference. I double click on Unity icon. I click on Unity 2D demo project. If you see in the 2D project mode, there is no sky available. There is no sky box available. Let me switch to 3D mode and show you. This is how the scene looks. This is how the scene looks. There is no sky or a sky box around the scene in the 2D project mode. So sky box is absent in the 2D project mode. I close this. I double click on Unity icon. I open the Unity 3D demo. And if you observe in the 3D project mode, there is a sky available around the scene. You can see that. There is a sky available around the scene. Can you see that? So skybox or sky is not available in the 2D project mode. So that is another difference. So I have listed out few differences in this tutorial between the 2D project mode and the 3D project mode. There are many differences. If you search online for difference between 2D project mode and the 3D project mode in Unity, you will get few more differences. I suggest you people to search and list out the difference between 2D project mode and 3D project mode. You can convert any 2D project mode to 3D project mode. You can convert a 3D project to a 2D project easily by making some changes in the settings. So Hope you guys have understood and enjoyed this tutorial. For this tutorial, this much is enough, friends. For more benefits, please subscribe, like, comment and share. Thank you guys. Thank you very much. See you in the next tutorial. Keep learning, keep coding, keep sharing.